Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So tonight is going to be a really short video. I became aware of this video just a couple of hours ago. So I said, it's really short and it gets right to the point. So, considering what I talk about on this topic, it fits in perfectly. And this is what I've said so much over, the last few years since I've been doing videos. Um, Previously when this discussion was race in Brazil, it was just coming out of academia. It was coming out of, people doing dissertations and theses on their findings on race in Brazil, going back to the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, it was pretty much limited to, like I said, scholars. But with the internet, social media, and as well as more access for Afro-Brazilians to the university to, getting college education and degrees, more than just everyday people are telling stories after they come to understand that some of the things that they saw in their household, some of the things that they heard was just, there was no way around just talking about, a lot of people have racist sentiments in Brazil. I consistently just point out the fact that, simply because people choose to have relationships across racial boundaries, that clearly does not mean that, the society is free from racism. This one young lady, forget her name. What is her name? Luana, I think her name is. She's risen to prominence in recent years. She started off as a model some years ago. Now she has I think it's like an NGO that's about promoting racial equity, racial equality in Brazil. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she's married to a white guy herself. But Luana has, she's become very much of a public figure. I think she still might have a TV program where she interviews people. Her NGO actually has like an award ceremony now. But, she put up an article a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see what the date was on this article. 2020, and her article was entitled "Being in an Interracial Relationship is Not Synonymous with Racism Being Over." And as I said, her article is from 2020, but Black Brazilians have been talking about this for a while now. When people get past the mythology that Brazil doesn't have any racism and they start understanding that a lot of things that they experience growing up or even in their adulthood, they come to see that as what it is. Like, Brazil is a very anti-Black country. Oh, you can always hear people saying the same thing. Well, how can we be racist when so many of us have mixed race? We have different races in our families. Well, the simple answer is, the point is, you always have to ask people, what leads people to be in interracial unions? I mean, is it always just love, or is there some ulterior motive that's going on? Ulterior motive. I've known a number of people who've told me the story that, their Black parent, whether it's the male or the female, would marry white, in order to quote unquote improve the race, so that their children come out with less African features so that they can not have to endure the open racism that, Black people experience in Brazil. So the very fact that people feel like they have to marry white, reproduce children who look less Black, right? I mean, what would you call that? If the question would be, in any given society where there's, all types of different races in that particular society, if we didn't have this stigma associated with certain groups, this group is known for being smart. This group is considered being frugal with money. This group is just really stupid and a very ugly race. This group is, we have stereotypes about every group. So my question would be, and better yet, I wouldn't even make a question of it. Point is, without the existence of these stereotypes about each racial group or color or whatever ethnicity, how can we really know what people's motives are for, having unions across racial or ethnic lines? this is exactly what this article is all about. Being in a racial relationship is not synonymous with, racism having ended. I mean, how much proof of it do you need? So let me go back to, I want to discuss this article that I have today. Now, like I said, there was a video by this young lady. I don't know what her name is. Hopefully one day I can find some background on this particular video because I found it very intriguing. Like she's recollecting, what she remembered growing up in her home where there was, her family is, an interracial family, right? So again, well, I've already discussed this numerous times. This is an article from, let's see, what year? 2017. And the name of this article, Bleach Bath, Clothespins on the Nose and Black Monkey. The study exposes racism in interracial families, debunking one of Brazil's greatest myths. So when we look at what people say, and when people get older and they perceive some of the things that they would hear in their families, I mean, this paints a very clear picture. This researcher, she actually, this is what she did her dissertation on, and it turned into a book. And she interviewed numerous people who were in interracial or families with various racial groups within the family, and she would get these stories from people. And this one particular girl, who she will call, this is a fictitious name, but she calls her Mariana. She was 32. And she was the daughter that looked like her father, or looked most like her father, who was Black, among her brother and their 4 sisters. She earned the nickname Nega, meaning, Black girl. She was the nega of the family. This was in an affectionate manner. Well, a lot of people are taking offense with the term nega and negrinha and neguinha and these types of terms that have the Negro word, at the root of the word. But for years, these terms were seen as terms of affection. But, with the rise of racial consciousness in recent years in Brazil, a lot of people of African ancestry are rejecting these types of terms. So it says, Mariana remembers that in times of anger, her white mother called her preta fegida, meaning you stinking Black girl, stinky armpit, macaca, or meaning monkey. And she would point to her cabelo de bombril, meaning it's a name that people refer to people who have Afro-textured hair in Brazil called cabelo crespo. And cabelo de bombril is like a scouring pad, the steel wool scouring pad that people use to clean pots and pans. And this is what they'll refer to, Afro-textured hair. This girl also remembers as a child, she would sleep with a clothespin on her nose because her mother said this would make her nose thinner. Okay. Numerous other stories. Okay. Okay. So in this particular part of the research, the woman was, doing an investigation with, an interracial family. And let me see here. She talking about the couple. She said the couple met in Sao Paulo. And when I interviewed the young college girl, the daughter of the couple, they had been separated for a long time. The father was already 80 years old and the mother 70, said the researcher. She told her that she knew she had been Black since she was a child because of the violence she suffered from her mother. Right. So this sounds like the same girl from the other article that I was just Mariana. And, the white mother referred to her hair as ruim again, which means, ruim, cabelo ruim means black, bad hair in Brazil. And she said her hair was like her Black father's, and she beat her. And when she cried, she cried when she was getting her hair combed. Obviously, you can just recollect. I'm sure a lot of people just understand what that is when somebody's pulling a comb through your hair in a violent manner, how much it hurts. She says, I used to look at my father and that man who had an extremely negative Black identity, even positioned himself as inferior, says the person who was interviewed. And this is another common story that you hear, that a lot of Black people in interracial relationships kind of have this lack of pride of Blackness, and they kind of position themselves in an inferior manner against their white partner. And, the Black person does not stand up to the racist treatment from the white partner. It's just again, it's one of these things where it's, okay, I'll deal with this as long as I can be at the side of a white person and produce lighter skinned children. So this is what I'm saying. When you look at all of these things that go on in Brazil, On the outside, people may think it's not a legitimate question to ask, okay, which country is more racist? Is it United States or Brazil? And a lot of people who come to study Brazil, live in Brazil, interact with a lot of Brazilians, a lot of people are coming to the conclusion, like, it may not seem like it, but in many ways, Brazil seems to be more racist than the United States. I mean, that topic goes on. And as I've said, I've taken the position it doesn't matter which country is actually more racist. The question is, which country is more effective in destroying the self-esteem of persons of African ancestry, right? And clearly, this is something that's been happening in Brazil for about 5 centuries. So anyway, let me get back to this story. This is a video, again, that I saw earlier today. And so somebody posted it in Instagram, one of my favorite Instagram profiles by Alan Soares. And he titled the video, I don't know if he titled it or somebody else did, but the title of the video is "The Reality of Many Interracial Families." The girl at the end of the video, she says, "My mom married a white man so I could have better hair." Well, I mean, what else can you say about that? I mean, just to have a mother actually tell her daughter that, it's not necessarily a thing of, again, what is the motive for getting married to somebody across a racial line? Is it just, I just fell in love with this person? But this mother that this girl is remembering is like, she told her flat out, "I'm marrying a white man so you could have better, quote unquote, better hair." What is better hair? As long as we continue to accept the stigma that says black hair is bad, then you're still going to have this idea of having some better hair. Okay. So let's get into this particular article here. It's come from a video. So this is the girl talking. I'm going to interpret what she's saying. Obviously, she's speaking in Portuguese. So she says, "My grandmother, she's white, and she has straight hair, and all of her daughters took after the blood of my grandfather, who was black and had Afro-textured hair. And she shaved all their heads because, like, really short, Maria João, Okay, let me stop right there. When someone says that a girl has a Maria João haircut, it's kind of like saying she has a crew cut. Like, her mother didn't want to deal with their hair, so she just cut it extremely short. Okay. So this is a young lady. I don't know her name, but I just saw the video pop up today, and this is her talking. So she continues. Because she said she didn't know how to comb it, she didn't know how to deal with it. And when they grow up, they will take care of their own hair. And then everyone grew up and everyone straightened their hair, relaxed it. So nobody took care of it." So listen to what she's saying here. Her mother, she cut everybody's hair down. Okay, the mother didn't want to deal with the hair texture. So she just cut all the girls' hair very short. And it says, when you get older, then you start to deal with your own hair. And because of being indoctrinated with this mother's disdain for cabello crespo or kinky curly hair, the girls naturally grew up and they adopted the same anti-blackness. They adapted the same attitudes toward Afro-textured hair as the mother did. So the mother cut the hair really, like in a boy's haircut when they were girls, so she wouldn't have to deal with it. And being accustomed to how their mother looked at their hair, the girls kind of reproduced this anti-Afro-textured hair when they grew up. They said, okay, they're not going to cut it off. They're not going to cut it real low, but they are going to straighten it. So, again, the issues that Black women have with their hair, a lot of them have, very, very much historical context, whether you want to talk a couple of 100 years ago or how parents, grandparents pass on this disdain for Afro-textured hair to the children, and they grow up and reproduce these same sentiments. Okay. So she continues. I don't think I would have been brought up any other way. And my mom always said she married a white man so I could have better hair. I mean, that's, like I said, at the top of this video, right to the point. This is what she heard. This is what her mother actually said. So, okay, what is behind this interracial relationship? Maybe she did love the white man who she married or whatever, but her motive for marrying this white man was to produce children who had less coarse hair than she has. Okay. I mean, there's no speculation here because the girl is just repeating what her mother has told her over the years. So let's get to what people are saying here. Okay, so again, I took this from the Instagram page of Alan Soares, and again, he's the guy behind the movement, the organization that's called Movimento Black Money, which basically means the Black Money Movement. He and his partner, Nina Silva, are trying to instill in Black people the necessity of supporting each other, supporting Black businesses, and having Black families. So he says, choosing to have a Black family is choosing not to go through certain situations and to avoid so many others. Little is said about the violence that Black people suffer within interracial relationships or interracial families, a violence that is often reproduced for several generations until someone breaks this cycle. But it's not always easy apart from the countless traumas that these people endure. Today, I invite you to watch this video and reflect on whether you have experienced similar situations in life. Then answer me this question. Is it worth it for us to go through these traumas? Okay, so this is what Alan Sawadis had to say in posting these videos. So he's inviting people to share their stories. There's only a few comments at this point. Maybe I will check back in and see if any other people have commented on the video. But of the few comments that I have here, it says one person says, wow, such identification, as if to say this person can totally identify with this, the girl story in the video. Second comment said, I heard from my paternal grandmother since I was little that she didn't know how to take care of cabello crespo, kinky curly hair that I had to straighten. Third comment says, in the most important years of life, childhood and youth, it is very difficult not to believe that you are outside of the standards. 4, marrying with a Black person and having children does not make anyone not racist. There's more to that than people. Basically what he's saying is that people really need to understand this point. Again, marrying with a Black person and having children does not make anyone not racist, which was really the same point of this article here. Being in a interracial relationship is not synonymous with racism being over. And the last comment, it was pointed at the person who posted the video, Alan Sawadis. And the person said a lot of people marry white people as a way of whitening the family. And again, if you followed this video channel for any amount of time, that's something that I consistently talk about. This social engineering that's been going on in Brazil for decades, arguably centuries, actually, that indoctrinates Black people to pursue whiter partners so that their offspring, their children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren can eventually get closer to a white appearance. Okay. So curious to know what you all thought about this particular video. As I said, my objective is just to expose, these stories that come out of Brazil all the time. It's not to denigrate the country or anything like that. As I've said, I've spent 23 years going back and forth to Brazil, living in the country, getting to know the people. If you ever get to Brazil, there's some great people that you can meet there, very friendly people. But this is one of those things that's kind of like, hidden under the rug that a lot of people just simply don't want to talk about it, especially not openly. Okay. So anyway, I'm curious to know what you thought about this video. I'm curious to know what you thought about what the young lady said. Are you familiar with stories like this? Even in the American media, we're seeing stories of this conflict between Black and white, even when the people have children together, and this tug of war going on between, well, I don't want her to look like that. Take those braids out of her hair. She's looking like a little Black girl. And the Black parent wanting to instill a pride of Blackness in the child. So again, we look towards Brazil and we see that, the interracial thing has been going on for centuries. And truth be told, it's been happening in the United States for centuries as well. I think the United States is going back to that. There was a period where, interracial unions wasn't actually a big deal in the United States. The Jim Crow era came along and changed all of that. And now the United States is moving towards more what I call the Brazilianization of the country, where more and more people are seeking long-term relationships with persons of an opposite color, right? Or, somebody outside of their racial group, I'll say. So anyway, I would love to know what you have to say about this video. What did you think? When you were listening to what the young lady was saying, what came to your mind? Definitely like this video, share this video, comment on this video. It's the only way, the YouTube algorithms will pick up on some of my stuff. Click on the notification bell so you'll be one of the first people to receive my videos when they go up. And with that said, I'm going to end this video here and invite you to come check out my next video.